So, you have your eye on a Cancer. Good taste. Genuinely good taste. Because if you can get a Cancer to actually fall for you, and I mean really fall, not just tolerate your presence while keeping their guard up, what you will have is one of the most devoted, warm, deeply loving partnerships available to another human being. Cancer does not do halfway. When they choose you completely. The question is how to become someone they feel safe enough to choose. And that is exactly what this video is going to help you understand. Let me be clear about what this is. This is not a list of tricks. It is not a manipulation playbook. It is a map of how a Cancer actually works on the inside, romantically, what they are looking for beneath the surface, what tends to push them away without people realizing it, and what creates the specific conditions in which a Cancer begins to genuinely fall. Understanding someone deeply is always the best foundation for real attraction. And Cancer, more than almost any other sign, can feel the difference between someone who understands them and someone who is just performing the right moves. So pay attention. This matters. The first thing most people get wrong about Cancer is assuming that warmth is the entry point. You meet a Cancer, they are charming, they're attentive, they remember things you said 3 weeks ago, they make you feel like the most interesting person in the room. And so the natural conclusion is that Cancer is easy to get close to, that the warmth means the door is open. It doesn't. What you are experiencing is Cancer's genuine care for people in general. Cancer, ruled by the moon, is naturally attuned to the emotional needs of others. That attentiveness is real. But it is not the same as romantic openness. And the people who mistake the warmth for an open door tend to move too fast, to assume an intimacy that has not yet been earned, and Cancer feels that assumption immediately and quietly begins to step back. What is actually happening beneath that warmth is something much more careful. Cancer is a cardinal water sign. Cardinal means it initiates. It reaches toward what it wants with genuine intention. But water means it is also deeply feeling, deeply protective of its own interior, and acutely aware of emotional safety. Before a Cancer lets anyone into the real interior of their life, they are running a quiet and continuous assessment. Not consciously, not cynically, just instinctively. They're asking, without words, is this person safe? Can I trust them with the parts of me that are not charming or composed? Will they be careful with what I give them? The grounding insight here is this. With Cancer, you are not trying to impress them. You are trying to make them feel safe. Those are very different projects. Impressing someone requires performance. Making someone feel safe requires consistency, attentiveness, and the quiet demonstration that you are who you say you are over time, without being asked. Reliability is foreplay for Cancer. I do not say that lightly. The person who shows up when they said they would, who remembers the thing Cancer mentioned in passing and asks about it later, who is steady and present without being overwhelming. That person is deeply attractive to Cancer in a way that grand gestures simply cannot match. The concrete thing to do here is simple but requires real attention. Be consistent in the small things. Not the big romantic moments. The small ones. The text you send when you said you would. The question you ask about the thing they mentioned worrying about. The plan you follow through on without needing to be reminded. Every small act of reliability lands with a Cancer in a way that accumulates over time into something that feels like genuine safety. And genuine safety is where Cancer love begins. The second mistake people make with Cancer is performing emotional availability without actually having it. This is a subtler error than the first, and it tends to happen with people who have genuinely good intentions. They know Cancer is emotionally oriented. They know that feelings matter. So they show up talking about feelings, asking deep questions early, sharing vulnerabilities on what feels like an accelerated timeline, because they have heard that Cancer responds to emotional depth, and they want to demonstrate that they have it. Cancer sees through this almost immediately, not because they are cynical, but because they are extraordinarily emotionally literate. They can feel the difference between someone who is genuinely comfortable with emotional depth and someone who is performing it to create a particular impression. And the performance, however well-intentioned, creates a subtle wrongness that Cancer cannot always name but absolutely registers. Something feels off. Something feels like it is moving faster than the trust that should be underneath it. And Cancer, whose entire romantic orientation is built around emotional safety, quietly starts to pull back. What Cancer is actually drawn to is not emotional performance. It is emotional honesty. Those are not the same thing. Emotional honesty means being genuinely present with your own feelings, including the complicated ones, including the ones that are not flattering or romantic. It means not pretending to be more open than you are, but also not hiding behind a composed exterior when something is actually affecting you. Cancer can hold a lot. They are built for it. What they cannot hold, and what eventually drives them away, is the sense that the person they are with is not actually showing them who they are. This is where a particular quality becomes very attractive to Cancer. Vulnerability that is real. Not performed vulnerability, not strategic sharing, but the genuine and slightly uncomfortable act of letting someone see something true about you before you know how they will receive it. Cancer responds to that kind of honesty with something close to reverence. It activates their natural instinct to hold and protect and care for. It signals that you trust them. And being trusted, being chosen as the person someone feels safe enough to be real with, that is one of the most powerful things you can offer a Cancer. The concrete thing to embody here is this. Let yourself be genuinely seen in at least one interaction before you feel ready to be. Not a confession, not an overshare, just one real and slightly unguarded moment where you let Cancer see something true about you that you did not rehearse. That moment will do more for your connection than any carefully constructed romantic gesture. Cancer will remember it. They remember everything that feels real. The third dimension of Cancer attraction is the one that most people never think to address, and it is the one that determines whether a Cancer falls deeply or keeps you permanently at a comfortable distance. It is the question of home. Not the physical kind necessarily, though that matters too. The felt sense of home. The atmosphere of safety and warmth and being known that Cancer is always looking for in a partner. Not just in the grand arc of a relationship, but in the moment-to-moment texture of being around someone. Cancer is oriented around the concept of home more deeply than any other sign. It is not a preference or a personality quirk. It is a fundamental need. And what Cancer is assessing, often without conscious awareness, is whether being around you feels like coming home or like being a guest. A guest is treated well, welcomed warmly, made comfortable. But a guest is always performing a little, always aware of the distance between themselves and the space they are in. Home is where you exhale. Home is where you do not have to manage how you appear. Home is where you are known and wanted and safe. The question Cancer is always asking about a potential partner, beneath every date and every conversation and every quiet moment between words, is, could this person be home? And the way you answer that question is not through a grand declaration. It is through the texture of how you actually are when you are with them. Do you make them feel like they have to be impressive around you, or do you make them feel like they can just be? Do you receive what they share with care, or do they sense that you are moving on before they have finished? Do they feel more like themselves when they are with you, or do they feel like they are working to hold your attention? What Cancer needs from a partner at the deepest level is someone who makes the world feel a little softer. Not someone who protects them from reality, but someone whose presence creates a quality of ease that is hard to find and impossible to fake. And the way to become that person for a Cancer is not a technique. It is a genuine orientation toward them. A real interest in who they are beneath the warmth and the care and the composed exterior. A willingness to be the person who asks how they are and actually waits for the real answer. Here is the most concrete and important thing you can do. Learn what makes this specific Cancer feel cared for, and then do that thing without being asked. Not once as a gesture. Regularly as a practice. Cancer gives care so consistently and so generously that they rarely expect it in return, and rarely ask for it directly. They have learned not to. But when someone pays close enough attention to know what they need and provides it without prompting, that breaks something open in Cancer that very few people ever reach. That is the thing that turns interest into devotion. Cancer falls in love with the person who finally makes them feel as cared for as they have spent their whole life caring for others. That is the whole truth of it. They are looking for someone who sees how much they give and thinks to ask what they need. They are looking for someone who creates safety rather than just inhabiting it. They are looking for someone who chooses them not for what they provide, but for who they are underneath all the nurturing and the warmth and the careful protection of their own heart. If you are that person, or if you are willing to genuinely grow in that direction, you have more than a chance. Cancer's loyalty, once it is given, is one of the most extraordinary things another person can receive. They do not leave easily. They do not love lightly. And they remember every small act of genuine care for as long as the relationship lasts. The best thing you can bring to this connection is exactly who you are, shown honestly and consistently over time, with real attention paid to who this Cancer actually is beneath the surface. That is not a strategy. That is just showing up. And for Cancer, someone who genuinely shows up is the rarest and most irresistible thing in the world. What has been your experience with the Cancer in your life? Are they warming up slowly, or are you trying to figure out what is holding them back? Drop it in the comments. Real questions, real stories. I read everything, and this community gives genuinely good advice to each other. If this gave you real insight into your Cancer, make sure to save this video and come back to it. Drop your questions and stories in the comments below. Like and subscribe for the full series. And good luck, you've got this.